Hey guys, Arknights here. Today I'm going to be talking about this absolutely amazing jewel of a review from PCGamer about Arknights Endfield. But before I get to the review proper, I want to talk a little bit about target audiences and filtering. I'm going to give you an example. If you've ever played Dark Souls, do you think the game is hard? Yes? No? Does the type of game appeal to you when it's rough, hard, roguelike, challenging, and you're gonna die to the first boss at least 5 to 10 times when you first play it? Yes? Well, then the game is for you. No? And you're getting super frustrated? I'm so sorry. You should probably play something else. Now, this is exactly the case here with Tyler Culp and Arknights Endfield. Maybe I should just buy Factorio. Spoiler alert, yes. I like Arknights Endfield a lot more if it would stop trying to be Genshin Impact and just let me build. Oh, we know we're off to a great start with some comparisons to Genshin Impact of all things. Leave me alone, I have quotas to hit, I'm sure you do. One of them is probably writing reviews like that, huh? I'm begging anime gacha games to try something new. The chokehold Genshin Impact has on the genre is so obvious that anytime a new one shows up at the Game Awards show, Game Awards, I force my friends to guess if Hoyoverse made it or not. I've played a lot of them. Oh wow, we have a badass here, and I can barely tell anymore. Well, that's your problem then. So, let's start from the basics. Genshin Impact the chokehold. Fan fact, Genshin Impact is actually very similar to Breath of the Wild. Believe it or not, it's been inspired by Breath of the Wild and other Zelda games. So, if you've ever noticed some kind of nostalgia in the game, it's just not the visuals, the nice jingles, but it's also the overall world design, world building, maybe not so much, but the kind of like the visual direction, the graphical direction, the art direction, sorry, and also the monster designs. A lot of this is directly inspired by older Zelda games and specifically Breath of the Wild, yes, which was released earlier, as I've checked a couple of days before. That's really the case. But yeah, apparently newer anime gacha games are nothing more than just Genshin Impact clones. Wow, that's quite very insightful of you, Tyler. There's nothing wrong with Genshin Impact, but I only need so many open world action RPGs where you meet anime characters you can collect like Pokemon. Most of the copycats don't have anything else going on. Yeah, this one makes me really angry. Clearly, you've not played Wuthering Waves for longer than 5 to 10 minutes, because then you would notice that not only is Wuthering Waves building on the idea of, or the kind of core gameplay mechanics of Genshin Impact, but it's expanding it to such a degree that it's its own game. And I'm not going to go into the super cool, really good story, which dwarfs Genshin Impact in comparison. That's simply the truth. Genshin Impact might have been in like 2020 up to 2022, I would say, was a really big name, but after that, a lot of other games were released, and they've already surpassed Genshin Impact in design quality, in characters, and storytelling, in overall maturity, which Genshin Impact, at least for a very long time, severely lacked. I know it's picking up a lot more nowadays, but again, I stopped playing it exactly for these reasons, that there are simply better games on the market and they have way more to offer. Not to even mention that the majority of gacha games are actually not like Genshin Impact. Like Honkai Star Rail, which is going to be brought up later, is a turn-based sci-fi game, has anime characters, has nothing to do with Genshin Impact. And then we have Silver and Blood, which is kind of more like a Blue Archive clone. We have Blue Archive, we have Snowbreak, Containment Zone, which has nothing to do with Genshin Impact, has anime waifus, yes, but it is otherwise a shooter game, so again, nothing to do. Strinova that I mentioned some time ago, technically a gacha game, more a shooter game, more a hero shooter with gacha mechanics. Nothing to do with Genshin Impact. It is really the minority of gacha games that are in any way similar to Genshin Impact. And yes, the kind of the 3D action combat, the team rotations, that is a little bit tired. However, very few games in comparison to the overall pool of gacha games are doing exactly this. Okay, so this point here that he's complaining about Genshin Impact for whatever reason has absolutely nothing to do with reality. And then he says, Arknights Endfield, however, does have something else going on, surprisingly robust factory building. Okay, as opposed to all the other gacha games where each of them is somewhat unique. I would say the overloaded subgenre would be probably the AFK gacha games. So kind of anything that's kind of fairly adjacent to Girls Frontline 1, which is basically just kind of the side, team versus team, full auto combat, which are really just waifu collectors because the combat is fully automatic. I can understand these games being overrepresented, but otherwise, really, every single gacha game has something special to it, something unusual that other games do not directly have. But okay, fair enough. We have Factorio-style base building. And here, interestingly, he does point out that Factorio always looked like a game I'd never click with, but Endfield has turned me into the kind of person who can spend hours reorganizing their base just to make it slightly more efficient. So apparently the game does have some appeal. Maybe as the anime characters. Well, unfortunately, spoiler alert, it is not. The problem now is that I like the factory building so much that I'm disappointed when Endfield interrupts it to make me play more of its sad sci-fi Genshin Impact style adventure. Wow, okay. Clearly you've only ever played Genshin Impact. This is what I'm getting from this. With characters that make me want to turn the sound off. At the beginning when I mentioned target audience, this guy, very clearly, not target audience. It is really that simple. And then he's going a little bit into the setting, and he's complaining, obviously. He's complaining for like 80% of this review. I just need Enfield's cloying cast of administrator-obsessed anime characters. Again, anime characters are the fault of everything. To be quiet and let me build. But then go play Factorio, my man. Clearly this game's not for you. Enfield's main storytelling is written, if it's worth, you'll turn it off if someone doesn't remind you that you're the only one in the world who knows how to fight rock monsters with a team of 4 characters and their special abilities. Now, here's a topic I will cover separately, but I just want to point out here. This has very much to do with immersion, and I can tell he's not the target audience because he absolutely refuses to get in any way immersed in the game. There's a lot of people who do enjoy anime games, who like games like this, who will definitely enjoy Arknights Endfield, and who will not complain about fighting rock monsters with a team of 4 characters because it's a staple of so many games. Like, my man, get over it. You're not playing anything unusual in that sense. A lot of games will have these recurring mechanics like having a team of characters, fighting rock monster. Are you gonna now come up to every single game that features rock monsters and be like, oh yeah, I've seen the game like 20 times already, I've seen it like 15 years ago, when I was young, when I was solo dwarf, I've played this game, had rock monsters, nothing's new anymore, it's just rock monsters all over the place. Are you gonna be like this, really? Much like Genshin Impact, you basically spam skills at spongy enemies. Do you really, do you never use any tactics whatsoever, just go spamming skills? Do you even play games? Like, my guy. Jesus Christ, man. And I'd forgive Endfield for borrowing so much, what exactly is it borrowing from Genshin Impact? I am, the more I read this review, the more I am genuinely convinced he's actually not played Arknights Endfield. I've heard this same Genshin Impact complaint before. I went into Arknights Endfield, and it was absolutely nothing like Genshin Impact. It had so much different. I guess the closest I would think would probably be Wuthering Waves, and merely because this was the last 3D kind of Genshin Impact-like sort of game that I played, which is simply just, team of 3 characters, character rotations, RPG, but otherwise has nothing to do with Genshin. So I would say that's the only similarity, but like the art style reminds me more of overall kind of like direction, probably Girls Frontline to Exilium. Yeah, that one, not Genshin Impact. Like, sorry, I'm just dying inside of this comparison because it's so incredibly inaccurate. And yeah, and he's complaining a lot. I can tell. He's like, this entire review is basically just complaining. Like this one here, I'm thrown back into more missions where I have to endure more anime nonsense, fighting gas-masked bandits from Mad Max Fury Road. I invite this guy to go and play Borderlands and not complain about the initial enemies looking exactly the same for a big part of the game. No, please, go ahead. Tell me how incredibly unique the monsters in Borderlands, for instance, are. And this is the gas mask bandits. Actually, this is fairly refreshing because you are not going to see this very often in gacha games. I think the last one where I've seen kind of like gas mask bandits, quote unquote, more like soldiers, I would probably say, is actually Girls Frontline to Exilium, and I haven't seen it in any other game for a very long time. So yeah, these complaints are absolutely out of place. And yeah, and of course he's complaining about a little bit about monetization, but like just like a general mess of weird complaints about anything. But I have to say, probably the paragraph that hit me the most is going to be this one, where he says, I often think how great Hoyoverse games would be if they weren't gacha games. And I think to myself, would they be better if they were not gacha games? No, they wouldn't. If you take, for instance, something like Honkai Star Rail, which is ironically mentioned here, would it be better if it was not a gacha game? How would you unlock the characters? You would need to put the characters behind some kind of progression system. Would it be a built-in progression system? I mean, possibly. But then again, there's a lot of characters. So if you, for instance, had the entire current length of the game as a standalone single-player game, would you just give all of the characters instantly to the player? No, you wouldn't do this because it would make the game awfully boring. Like, giving everything instantly to the player would make things far less exciting than having some kind of like a gated way of actually getting the characters. Could they be gated by progression? Theoretically, yes, but that would also mean that you really need to get through the game, like the first, second, third, and so chapter to actually get access to these characters. So you wouldn't be able to have these characters and play these characters before that. Now, why gacha games are so exciting and why the gacha system is so critical to gacha games. I very often remind myself of the pop-up stores in Japan and in general kind of like the event-based celebrations, I guess also in other Asian countries, probably also in China, where you have things that you can only get for a limited, you kind of have like this, artificial scarcity, so to speak. But on the upside, when you can participate in an event where you go somewhere, you talk to people, to other people enjoying the same thing you enjoy, you have a community of people, and you participate in, in this lottery of some form where you get to pull something and you get to win something. Sometimes you win something, sometimes you don't. You have other people, you can exchange things with other people. That in itself is way more exciting than playing a single player game where you very easily can access all of the characters, all of the weapons and everything. that by default, that entire invention of gacha systems and lotteries is just way more exciting. And I don't say it only as a complete gacha addict and a, little spender here and there, but I say it as someone who did participate in these things and genuinely can find enjoyment in them. And not, to be some kind of a simp or something, or to suck it up and open my wallet, wide from side to side. You know what I mean. But anyway, his biggest complaint is that Endfield is too much like Genshin Impact, which is absolutely nothing like. And then maybe I should just finally install Factorio. Maybe you should go Factorio, play Factorio, and stop writing reviews like this one. Again, target audience. If you guys at PCGamer want to have decent gacha game reviews, you gotta give them to someone who's genuinely the target audience for the genre. I mean, I heard you guys like glazing games, no? You've been glazing Highguard, for instance, recently. Isn't that what you guys are doing? And maybe you should pick someone who glazes these games a little better than our Tyler boy here. But anyway, that is going to be it for today, and I see you guys in the next one. Mata ne!